Oh man, things are going down and it is getting violent for these ICE officers. Watch what you got to see next.
You're watching Tater Thoughts, the no BS take on current events.
Back-to-back ambushes targeting immigration officers in Texas, and the Trump administration says Democrats' rhetoric is to blame for the uptick in violence. Welcome to a new hour of America Reports. I'm John Roberts in Washington. Good to be with you, Sandra.
Good to be with you, too, John. I'm Sandra Smith in New York. So in Alvarado, Texas, 10 suspects are facing attempted charges after someone shot an officer responding to cars being vandalized at an ICE detention center. And hundreds of miles away in McAllen, Texas, CBP agents, an armed suspect stopping a potential massacre before it could begin.
Our political panel takes that up in just moments.
But first, let's get to our chief correspondent.
So that's crazy. Not one, but two ambushes within a weekend in Texas, of all places. You'd think it'd be in like a sanctuary place like New York or California or something, but in Texas, targeted ICE agents to be, and there's a reason why. We'll get to that in a second. In fact, they're probably didn't get to it within this video here. I hope so. If not, we will talk about why is it going. In fact, it's at the top left of your screen. Democrats are calling for violent ICE rhetoric to be toned down because the Democrats are the ones that are doing it. They're the ones that are causing the problem. In a little bit, we're going to show you footage where Axios, who's no friend of conservatives, actually reported on a Democrat House member, an actual elected congressman who is called for bloodshed, actually called for bloodshed. Of course, they're anonymous, but they're actually calling for bloodshed. And these ICE agents have families. They go home to families every single night. These people did nothing but do what their job has dictated that they do. They were hired to enforce laws that these congressmen put into place and was signed by a president of the United States. This is getting ridiculous.
What are we learning about these suspects?
Well, Sandra, 10 people have now been charged with attempted in the attack on an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas. These are the 10 currently charged in what appears to be the most coordinated of all the recent attacks on ICE and Border Patrol agents and facilities. It began with the attackers all...
I'm going to move my face out of this because I think you need to see it. All of the doofus on the bottom right. He looks just like a doofus, too.
Dressed in what investigators describe as black military-style clothing, shooting fireworks at the Prairieland Detention Center. Around 10 minutes later, one or two of them broke off from the main group and began spray painting the facility and vehicles parked there with words like traitor and other slogans. A police officer arrived, and at that point, one of the group, who had apparently hidden in trees near the facility, opened fire, hitting the officer in the neck, while another attacker, also across the street, fired dozens of rounds at officers who were emerging from the facility.
This is completely unacceptable and out of hand. Completely unacceptable and out of hand. First of all, where did they get this gear? Okay, these same liberals, by the way, that hate guns and high-capacity magazines and assault rifles, that's exactly what it looks like. They shot an officer in the neck who was responding. Because it's I think the Alvarado incident. This isn't even the one that we're going to go over in a few minutes. I'm sure they're going to go over in McAllen, Texas, a few hundred miles down the road. But this is coordinated effort stuff right here. This is coordinated. And this is why the FBI needs to investigate every one of these. Investigate it because this right here, these people are doing their freaking jobs. Nothing more, nothing less. Doing a patriotic duty for America.
It was a planned ambush with the intent to ICE corrections officers. Make no mistake, this was not a so-called peaceful protest. It was indeed an ambush.
As well as weapons and body armor, police also discovered anarchist literature and flyers in one of the vehicles used by the attack.
This is all coordinated stuff. This is coordinated stuff. Organizing for attack, insurrectionary anarchy, and stuff like that. By the way, every crazy mass in this country, they say, oh, it's done by a white person. They're actually done by liberals. Liberals. So when they talk about taking away your guns, they really need to take away liberals' guns. They don't know how to handle them. And when they do, it's been mass casualties every time. Every mass shooting has pretty much been either an emo kid in a school shooting it up or a leftist of some sort shooting up a church or something like that, or a jihadist or something. Definitely not Republicans.
Hackers material now being closely looked at as part of the investigation. Separately, investigators are also looking into the background of a man shot dead by Border Patrol agents after he opened fire on them at a facility in McAllen, Texas yesterday. And one of the big questions, Sandra, yet to be answered is whether all of these attacks against ICE and Border Patrol are entirely separate incidents, or whether there is some form of coordination behind them, and if so, who is organizing this violence and who might be funding it. Sandra?
All right, Jonathan Hunt on that for us. Jonathan, thank you. John.
All right, for more on all of this, let's bring in Yemisi Egbowale, Chief of Staff to the White House Press Office under President Biden, and T.W. Origi, former National Press Secretary for the National Republican Senatorial Committee. So this was what Axios wrote about Democrats demanding violent confrontation.
Here it is. The one I was telling you about. I'm glad they're addressing it all in one report. This is Axios, no friend of conservatives. So you know they're not trying to, if anything, they would not want to report this. Okay, because they want us to be the crazy ones. They want us to seem like the crazy dudes that are out there. But no, we know who it is, and you're gonna see that an actual elected Democratic congressman or woman is actually calling for bloodshed. This is out of hand.
In resisting the Trump administration. Some of them have suggested, Axios wrote, what we really need to do is be willing to, quote, get shot when visiting ICE facilities or federal agencies, a third House Democrat told Axios. Our own base is telling us that what we're doing is not good enough. There needs to be blood to grab the attention of the press and the public, the lawmaker said.
So it comes from the point, oh, they need to get shot so that ICE looks bad, but they're calling for bloodshed. In order to get shot, you'd have to shoot at them. You would actually literally have to shoot at ICE or present some sort of deadly force beyond fireworks. Otherwise, there'd be a bunch of dead leftists anyways.
Someone did get shot in the McAllen, Texas yesterday, but that person was trying to shoot federal agents. I mean, is this what Democrats want?
No, of course not. And fighting harder doesn't mean fighting violently. We need to use every Democratic tool that we have. And I appreciate that Democratic lawmakers are listening to their constituents. That unnamed constituent doesn't speak for the entire base. And I think what constituents are saying is we are frustrated.
That wasn't a constituent. Oh, the constituent was talking to the congressperson. The congressperson was actually relaying it to the press. What do you think is going to happen if they relay that kind of information to the press? They're endorsing it. They are endorsing violence against ICE agents. Endorsing it.
And we feel like nobody's doing enough to push back. And of course, those who are the most extreme and on the fringe are going to act in ways that are completely uncalled for.
When you listen to some of the rhetoric, though, and some of the ways that Democrats have been castigating not just the administration, but people who are on the front lines of this, like ICE agents, Border Patrol agents, and others, it's not too much of a leap to think that somebody who is on the extremist fringe would take matters into their own hands and perpetrate incidents not only like this, but the one that happened in Alvarado on Saturday.
Absolutely.
Or on Friday, I mean.
We've seen this movie before. You know, there's a book out today by Josh Jossi, Tyler Pager, and Isaac Arnsdorf called 2024, How Trump Won the White House and the Democrats Lost America. Look, in 2020, we saw all the riots after George Floyd, and there was a general consensus that something needed to be done about policing. The Democrats transformed that into a violent, anti-police, defund the police rhetoric that they lived with for a long time. Now today, fast forward, there's a poll done last month that the majority of people support ICE agents. Sure, no one wants to see somebody who he is here legally or somebody innocent get deported, and J.D. Vance and Tom Homan have said they rectify that. But taking it to this next step of committing violence against the men and women of ICE who are doing their job, enforcing the law of the land and enforcing immigration policy that was not enforced for 4 years, where we had 10 million plus illegal immigrants come into this country, is completely irresponsible, and it will lead to more bloodshed, and it will lead to more electoral disasters for the Democrats.
I mean, we look at some of the material that was confiscated from the Alvarado ambush. There's a flag there that says resist fascism, fight oligarchy. That's right out of Bernie Sanders and AOC's playbook. There's some other literature there that goes along with it. You mentioned Tom Homan. Here's what Tom Homan said about the rhetoric and then what we're seeing. Listen here.
The ramped up rhetoric is going to cause a situation where someone loses their life. We saw that today. I was hoping I'd be wrong, but I wasn't. And I tell you something else. It's not the end. Unless we stop the hateful rhetoric against ICE and Border Patrol, comparing them to Nazis, there's going to be more situations like that.
So the person who lost their life yesterday was an assailant, but in Alvarado, it was almost a local police officer, was shot in the neck, thankfully survived that. I mean, is it time to tone down the rhetoric here?
Well, Democrats have been calling for the rhetoric to be toned down for quite a while now. I would say even from January 6th, we've been calling for rhetoric to be toned down and also been.
She's deflating. January 6th was years ago. The Democrats have been nothing but violent in their rhetoric, comparing them to neo-Nazis. Michelle Wu from Boston yesterday compared them to literally neo-Nazis because they wear a mask. Why they wear a mask is because of people like you guys who are calling for insurrection and violence against our ICE agents for merely doing their freaking jobs. All they're doing is their job. So if she's deflecting, saying, oh, we've been calling for rhetoric to be toned down a long time ago. Really? Really? It was your rhetoric that got the president almost unalived twice in one election cycle. It used to be so rare to see an attempt against the president's life. We saw it twice in one election cycle because everybody said he was a threat to democracy and blah, 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 blah. He has to be taken out. Can't see the White House again. They try to put him in prison. The Democrat Party is soulless right now. They're leaderless. They have no direction on where they're going in life. They have no direction. They need leadership. And I'm not talking about Timu Obama either. Hakeem Jeffries. They need real leadership, and they need a plan. And they need to get on board because they helped President Clinton. The laws that we are enforcing are largely under President Clinton. President Obama said that we had to have closed borders, that we need to get people out of here. Obama was known as the deporter-in-chief. But they have gotten so beholden to the Palestinian Hamas lovers, to the illegal immigration, Maryland man, love. They are on the wrong side of every issue. And all they're doing is hurting themselves. But I don't care politically at this point. I care about the agents and the police that are getting shot at for just merely doing their damn job. All they're doing is their job. So this lady is absolutely full of it.
In support of law enforcement. When we saw the Minnesota lawmakers unfortunately lose their life, that was a time where we called for Republican leadership and the President of the United States to call the governor of Minnesota to attend the funeral of the Minnesota lawmakers to show unity at a time when we do have divisive partisan rhetoric.
All right. So you say that the rhetoric's been toned down, which leads me to this montage of what Democrats have actually been saying. Watch here.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons.
People are terrified for their lives and for their neighbors, folks getting snatched off the street by secret police who are wearing masks.
And every single one of them, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will of
Timu
course be
Obama.
identified.
And that's some of the mild stuff. I mean, is that toning down the rhetoric?
No, and obviously we can cite examples like Steve Scalise or the threats against Justice Kavanaugh, et cetera, et cetera. Look, all violence is bad. There's no question about it. Those politicians you saw, like Mayor Wu from Boston, running a sanctuary jurisdiction, Governor Walz overseeing sanctuary jurisdictions. There's sanctuary jurisdictions in New York. There were violent criminals that were allowed back on the street that they had the chance to turn over to ICE agents. Tom Homan, who was awarded a medal by Barack Obama for his great work, has seen what the disasters of violent immigrants coming across our border do to our communities.
Hold the press. Wait, what did he just say? Tom Homan, who was awarded a medal because Tom Homan, the one that they all hate now, the same Tom Homan he's always been, Law and Order Tom Homan, take no crap Tom Homan who can't even live with his wife right now and his kids because there's so many threats against him. So he barely even sees his family, but he's a patriot doing his duty to his country, was awarded medals from President Obama himself back when Obama was in charge and the Democrat Party had some sort semblance of common sense still left. I mean, it used to be that the parties were so kind of close together and people were like, oh my God, kind of like what Elon Musk is trying to say is happening now where, oh my God, they're just one big Porky Pig unified party. No, they're not. They're night and day different, especially on these issues. But Tom Homan was actually given medals for his work under the Obama administration.
due to innocent people. That is where this focus should be. Tom Homan has said that if there's a mistake made, he will fix it. But priority number one is when you have people who are here illegally, who are committing crimes, who are violent in nature from their previous country, they need to be dealt with.
Sorry, I just want to ask Yemisi one more thing. I don't have the soundbite right now, but in 1996, Bill Clinton said something that would be taken to be, I don't want to say far-right ideology right now, but certainly would come out of the Republican rubric, where he said people are frustrated about illegal immigration. People can't just come into this country illegally, and yes, we have to deport them. What happened between then and now?
What did happen between then and now? And that's the Clinton reference that I was referencing just a little while ago.
The Democratic Party.
Democrats have always stood for common sense immigration reform. Michelle Wu,
and common sense is letting more than 10 million people in this country illegally in 4 years?
The mayor of Boston is speaking at a time when it's not just illegals that are being picked up, it's also students. She saw somebody who went to Tufts that was picked up off the street. I mean, if the administration wants to tone things down, then work on the messaging of this. People are being picked up outside of schools, outside of churches. People are being deported accidentally to other countries. I mean, we can also get a handle on this from the Republican point of view.
The bigger problem is Mayor Wu wouldn't allow Border Patrol officials and ICE officials into the jails to get people who committed violent crimes until a raid just last month in Boston that got a lot of violent illegal criminals off the streets. Had she done her job as mayor and reported those people to ICE, we wouldn't have had those issues.
A problem for Democrats is immigrants going to their court-appointed hearings and getting picked up.
All right. If you don't want that to happen and you want us to just do the same way of enforcing immigration, that would be allowing us into the jails where they're safe and already confined. Tom Homan already said the only way we're going to go into the jails, or the reason why people are getting picked up in the community is their collateral damage. If you let us into the jails, the people who are already there, convicted or not, they're in the jails. We already have a detainer for them. Hold them for up to 48 hours. Call ICE, and they will come get them out of the jails. That way, they don't have to go and see all the people around them and say, oh, wait, are you illegal? Are you legal? Are you legal? And then all of a sudden, the convicted or the criminal who could have been picked up in jail and the raid would have been over, it takes less money because there's only one or two officers. You can see what they're doing now when they go in these communities. In fact, let me show you. I don't know if they're actually doing something or they were actually just practicing. But watch this clip. Watch this clip of them in practicing on horseback and everything else. Because what I'm trying to show in this next clip is how many agents it takes to just arrest one person. So, of course, while they're out there, they're going to get a bunch of people while they're at it, whether they were committing a crime or not. If they're illegal, they're not safe in this country. But if they allow them to come get them in the jails, all those other collateral pickups won't be happening. It would not be happening. Okay, so there's no sound on this video here, but let me just go ahead and show it to you. So this is yesterday. And I don't know if they were practicing because they didn't end up arresting anybody, but they literally went to this big MacArthur Park en masse and shut off the roads. And as you're going to see in a second here, they actually had literal. So you see them shutting off the roads here. And in a second here, you're going to see them actually on horseback. So now they're practicing sweeps. Look at, I thought in the helicopter who was reporting on this, the KTLA or whoever it was, they thought, wait, LAPD can't be a part of this because they're a sanctuary city. These are actually trained Customs and Border Patrol agents with shielded eyes on their horses and all that stuff so that the horses don't get injured by these so-called animal rights lovers, leftists, who actually injure the horses too. Hypocrites, man. Democrats are hypocrites on everything, whether it was the body armor and the guns or injuring animals and all this stuff. But you see them sweeping this big old park. Some people said that it was going to be to get rid of illegal encampments. I don't think so. Nobody ever came out and officially said what they were doing there. I think actually that they were just practicing for riot control. I think what's going to be happening is you're going to see a huge clampdown on riots and civil unrest. And instead of waiting for the local police to do it, I think they're just going to start doing it themselves and handling business themselves. There, you kind of see the shields on the eyes of the animals there. And then what happened later, I don't know if they'll show it, but Mayor Bass actually heard about it going on and had a big old press conference and a bunch of, she's so tough on immigration or on these immigration officers, but she's calling for bloodshed too. There was a congresswoman. In fact, you know what? Let me pull up this video of a congress lady, a local mayor who was asking for MS-13 and the Cholos to come out and take on ICE agents.
Where's the leadership at? Because you guys are all about territory, and this is 18th Street, and this is Torrance, you guys tag everything up, claiming hood. And now that your hood's being invaded, by the biggest gang there is, there ain't a peep out of you.
New details as the vice mayor of Cudahy is facing calls to resign over that controversial video where she calls for local gang members to defend their territories against ICE agents. Cynthia Gonzalez shared that post last week. She's since deleted it, along with Facebook posts in which she writes about needing a lawyer, adding that the FBI came to her house. Federal sources tell Fox News that they are looking into that video. And new reaction from the union representing LAPD officers. The LA Police Protective League slammed Gonzalez, saying her remarks put law enforcement at risk. The union releasing a statement that reads in part, quote, her actions are deplorable and potentially illegal. She should resign, and she should be prosecuted if what she called for broke the law.
There you have it. Bottom line is, the rhetoric does need to be toned down. It always has to be toned down on one side. 2020, the BLM movement, the rhetoric was crazy. Now, ICE and just doing their job, the deportations, the very thing that the President of the United States ran on and won on, they just can't take a loss. They have to go get all emotional and then call for violence. And then when the violence happens, then they're wondering like, man, why is the violence happening? Let me know what you think. First and foremost, if you like what I'm putting out, I know it's not the most professional thing in the world, but I do my best. I don't have the professional editors in the studio and all that stuff, but make sure you like and you share. Liking is one way to beat the algorithms in the YouTube land. Second, comment below. Tell me what you think. Do you think that mayor should be prosecuted? Do you think that the rhetoric is too high on the right or the left? Do you support what President Trump is doing? If you do, put it in the comment. If you don't, tell me why. I'd like to know. And also, if you ever want to do a live show, and especially if you have the opposite view, I would be more than welcome to do live shows and we can debate this. I would love more than anything. So if you do, go ahead and just shoot me an email, sfckusarmy@yahoo.com. That was my old rank. K. SFC is my old rank. K is the first initial of my last name, U.S. Army. Of course, I was in the Army at yahoo.com. SFCK, U.S. Army at yahoo.com. Hit me up and we can start doing some live shows at nighttime. I'd much rather do live shows than these recorded videos because A, they take a lot less editing, and B, I like to have the live conversation. So with that, those have been Tater's Thoughts.
You're watching Tater Thoughts, the no BS take on current events.